It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Since 2010, your weekly source for independent New York Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, from the Joe Goldstein studio, here's your host, Mark Fishkin.
Hello, hello, hello. It's Mark Fishkin here at Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. It's hard to believe that we have reached the midpoint of the MLS season. The Red Bulls have played 17 league games, a couple of Open Cup games as well. This team, at one point, this 2025 season looked to be an epic meh. The team went 3-3-3 in their first 9 league games. Since then, 7-3 in all competitions, the quarterfinals of the Open Cup, and 3 on the trot as the Red Bulls head into this international break with 3 straight wins in the league. Again, I'm Mark Fishkin. I'm here with Dan the Man Rebain. I'm here with Mike Battista. We encourage you to like and subscribe. We're going to do something a little bit different on this Seeing Red. We're not going to dig into the win against Atlanta, which was frankly clinical, good, a fantastic experience, a beautiful Saturday night. Needed, sure. Again, 3 straight on the trot in the league and 4 straight overall and 6 of 8. But this is going to be Mike's favorite episode because he's grading, and we're going to give our midterm grades for all of the Red Bulls in the midpoint of the season. First of all, Dan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Big day in my household as it's Stanley Cup Game 1 day.
Happy Stanley Cup.
Right after this episode, I'm going downstairs and watching the game. So I'm happy to talk midterm grades because what a half. It's been up and down all over the place. So
up and down and up at the end, which I think folks feel good about. Mike Battista, is that a Rangers shirt you're wearing?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I honestly did put it on because of the Stanley Cup tonight. Honestly, it's, kind of going on the Stanley Cup tangent as a Rangers fan who's felt misery my entire life. The Red Bulls felt like they were going to give me misery all season, and they've started to pull it around. And it doesn't feel like you're at the midway point because MLS seasons are weird in the sense that after the first week, it feels like things are supposed to kick into high gear. It almost feels like we've continuously been in week 2 and week 3 where we're just about to go into the next gear. We still haven't got there yet. Yeah. So it's very weird to be in June.
It's weird to be in June. It's weird to play 9 matches in the month of May. I mean, just ridiculous. And again, there's Open Cup quarters to come. There's Leagues Cup matches to come. And then there's a stretch run where New York hopefully can improve their standing. They're currently, I think, 4 points out of second in the East. And they're probably an equal amount of points away from being out of the playoffs because the Eastern Conference is really, really tight. Dan, why is it called the Stanley Cup Final and not the Stanley Cup Finals?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know. To be fair, I probably call it both. So that's probably
the NHL is very clear on that. It's the Stanley Cup Final, as what I then add series of games to determine who wins the cup. Very, very strange. Nevertheless,
English majors would probably know better. So
yes,
I mean they also call themselves the world champions. So
actually, in the NHL, they're Stanley Cup champions. To be fair, it's
and the U.S. is world champions this year. So
yes, they are.
There you go. But we digress. All right, we're going to get right into midterm grades. We have a graphic for every team. If you're listening to this show, I will do my best to read what is on the screen. We also asked our friend Gustavo Guimarães to give his grades. He will not be here to defend them. But nevertheless, important to share. I've organized each of the 24 players that saw field time for the Red Bulls in the first half of the season by minutes from the most played to the fewest played. You will not be surprised who has played the few. Leave that to you. But nevertheless, let's start off again. All show, we're just giving out midterm grades, and we're going to start with our friend Noah Ayah, who has played the most minutes of any Red Bull so far this season. And to be fair, MLS games, but 19 games in all competitions. So keep that in mind with the 2 Open Cup. Ayah with a game-winning goal against Montreal, a pair of assists. Let's start with Dan. Why does Noah Ayah rate an A for you?
Personally, I think he's been one of the best players on the field for Red Bull. He's been defensively sound. He's chipped in offensively. He's just looked steady in the back. And when he first came in, I think this is exactly what Red Bull fans and Red Bull were hoping from a player of his caliber coming over as a U22 player. And I think he's delivered so far this season. He just, his passing, his dribbling into the midfield. He's just been a perfect fit for what Sandro Schwartz has wanted from a center back this year.
Yeah, tremendous. Mike, what are your thoughts on Ayah?
Well, my thoughts are that it feels like he sees the ball more than a center back should. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that it feels like a lot of plays start or involve Noah Ayah. And that is very good to see because of, we've been accustomed to the wingers like in the back going up front. The center backs have always kind of stayed back. He's gotten involved everywhere in the field and been pretty good at it. His best aspect is still his defense. And I remember the one goal he scored, Sandro said, "That's great, but let's not make it a habit. We still want to defend it." But overall, he seems like he's a full field player or has the ability to go wherever he needs to go, where the team needs him.
Yeah, the moment that stood out for me about Ayla's first half play is at Atlanta. And that was a game where we were all of a mind that Atlanta invested tens of millions of dollars in bringing back Almiron and signing Latelaf. And oh my goodness, they were going to run New York off the field. And that this was a second or third week of the season. This was really early.
Yep.
And in the later stages of the game, of a scoreless game, there's Ayah with mazy dribbles through the Atlanta midfield, trying to get into the attacking half and had an opportunity to score in this game. I think he has the freedom under Schwartz. If he sees an opportunity, a safe opportunity to go forward, he's going to take it. He doesn't put the team in bad situations. And that's so much of the upgrade that we've seen from Ayah, but from 25 to 24, that those little mistakes are at a minimum. Remember that, I mean, there were a few times last year that he turned wins into draws, own goals and things like that. We haven't seen that yet. So really good. Gustavo gave him a B. I don't get it. Okay. Boo, Gustavo. Erik-Maxim Choupo-Moting is third in the MLS in scoring. Now, keep in mind, 4 of his goals have come via the penalty spot of his 10 goals. But his 6 goals are in lead for goals that are not penalties, non-penalty goals. Raise your hand if you thought this guy was going to start 16 games this year.
Definitely
I sure
not.
didn't.
Definitely not.
Mike, your thoughts on Choupo? And why a B+?
So I went B. I actually, if he hadn't scored a goal last week against Atlanta, against Atlanta, I wouldn't have given him a B+. I would give him a B. Because I have been hypercritical of this man. Like you said, 4 of his 10 goals have been penalty kicks. And I'll go even further and say 2 of those goals are against the worst team in the history of Major League Soccer.
Right.
And going into last week, only 3 goals came from open play. And I was getting 3 goals against non-LA Galaxy were in open play. And I was just going like, what are we doing? Like, why are we happy that this 36-year-old is doing this? And then he gets that good pass from Kevin Harper and scores. I was like, okay, all right, fine. You answered me. Fine. I'm just at the point where he's doing what he has to do. He's playing the role he's supposed to be. I don't think he's going to be consistent. Like, I feel like there's going to be a point where he is going to slow down because we've seen it. Like, he can be inconsistent and he'll need the penalty kicks. And then Sandro will say, when he's on the field, he's got the penalty kicks. Is that because he's the best penalty kick taker, or is that because he needs the confidence? I don't know. I will also say that he was one of my 3 forwards for MLS All-Star because I do think he earned it. Like, he's got 10 goals. I cannot take that away from him, even if there's 4 PKs. So at that point, he's done his job. B+. I couldn't give myself to give him an A. He hasn't proven himself to give He hasn't proven himself from the field tonight.
Important to note that B+ gets you an MLS All-Star nod under Mike Battista.
There's some bias there, my friends.
Dan, your thoughts here on Choupo?
I kind of feel the same way as Mike, but I'm a bit more impressed with what he's done in the first half. Obviously, the first handful of games he wasn't scoring, but he was doing what he needed to be doing in those positions. He was dropping in, and that's what was asked of him, was drop in and kind of link up the play. Now, the second half of the first half of the season so far, then he started getting more confidence, and it was that LA game. Mike brought up scoring 2 goals against one of the worst teams in MLS history, but you can only score against the teams that you're playing against, even if they're penalties. Penalties, not everybody scores penalties. So him scoring 4 penalties, sure, that's fine. But a goal's a goal at the end of the day. So,
I can add an amendment that as a Rangers fan, I'm a Chris Kreider fan. All of his goals are trash goals.
Yeah.
All of his goals are chip ins in front of the net. A goal is a goal. I understand that.
They still count, I think.
So my thing is, like, since that LA Galaxy game, I think that was the game that kind of turned his early momentum season around, where it was, kind of stale for a bit of time. But since that game, it kind of opened up his game in the box, in the penalty area, making those runs, and just his swagger. Like, I remember that game where he's in the corner after he scored his first goal, and he's doing step overs, nutmegging guys, and drawing fouls that weren't called. But it kind of just showed like he was finally, free of whatever was holding him back early in the season, whether that was confidence, just him adapting to, the new league. It's just, since that game, he's kind of, been a new player. So B+ is, might seem a bit harsh, but, I think he's been really good for this team through 19 games.
I'm old enough to remember.
I also voted.
Yes, for All-Star. I'm old enough to remember when international stars needed half a season to acclimatize, to acclimate themselves to MLS. He has 10 goals. He could be the first 20-goal scorer for this team since Bradley.
And we have to remember, he hadn't played for 6 months before he joined Red Bull. So
that is why he gets an A-. Only because his early in the season, he was, I think, reminding people of Fabio with his fanciful stepovers that led to nowhere. He is a clinical finisher, especially we saw a few times where Forsberg would spring him up the middle, and he was able to convert those a number of times. And so be it. So Choupo, Gustavo, a big fan. Let's keep moving. Let's keep the show going. You may have heard of the captain, Emil Forsberg. He's only played in 18 of the team's 19 games, over 1,400 minutes, with 6 goals and 5 assists. He's tied for the team lead in assists. And yet, these grades are not perhaps befitting the Red Bulls captain. Let's start with you this time, Dan. What's the B+ about?
I think we have to kind of set up that, a B+ is really good. It's not like I'm, critiquing him in any way.
You got through high school I did.
In fact, you're precisely critiquing him. That is, in fact, what you're doing.
But if I'm giving it A, that means he's been one of the best players in the league this year. So, and which is, he's been really good for this team. But he's not, an MVP caliber player like we've all expected him to be. His stats are pretty good. I like that. I wish there was, more goals, more assists, but I think my expectations for him are a bit higher, and that's probably why my grade is a B+. Because I think he can be an MVP type of player when he's, I guess scoring more or assisting more. I think it's just the end product that is lacking his grade for me. If I want to kind of get to the point.
Keep in mind the Red Bulls have scored 8 times in the last 3 games. I'll just put it out there. Yeah, some have come via penalty. Mike, what's your thought?
I'm kind of similar to Dan. I will say that beginning of the season, I was petrified at what I was seeing on the field because he was leading the team in goals. and that shouldn't be the case because he is not a goal scorer. He's not a lead the team in goal type of player. He's a playmaker. That's why he has 5 assists, and that's why he leads the team in assists right now. That's his job. So as the seasons wore on, other players have started to develop. He started to find that groove. It's funny because I like how much the time I don't notice him because that's 2 things. That's a good captain because a captain's not to get the limelight. He's just playing what he has to do. And 2, it feels like if he doesn't have the ball, he's still controlling. He's still trying to move people around like vocally. He's still trying to create the dynamics. I appreciate that from him. My criticism with him is that it feels as though he's too invisible sometimes where I'm like, oh, wait, he's on field right now. Wait, what do you mean he's coming off the field for so-and-so? For Victor or whatever. Like, he was on the field? Like, sometimes it does feel like he's too quiet. But other times he just does amazing things. Like, in the Open Cup, the free kick off an FC Dallas player's back.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, that's why I go from B to B+. But I'll say that he has been one of the biggest parts of this Red Bull team all season. I just want him to be a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, my B+ is rooted, I think, in a little bit of that. He's pushed off the ball with some regularity. And I think last year, especially after he came back late in the season and led the team, big run to MLS Cup, it was impossible to get the ball away from him. And it may just be that he's pacing himself. He's not going to chase down a speedy winger. Right. He's there to kind of boss the middle. I think a lot of the assists that we've seen over the last little while have come from the wing backs and kind of bypass the midfield altogether. Everybody has to defend. But I agree with the both of you. I mean, we've given the same grade here, a B+. I think he just he's not the transcendent player this year. The team, I believe, has improved in a number of different areas, and perhaps it means that Forsberg himself is making less of an impact. Let's keep going. Carlos Coronel has played out of his mind. There was a stat, I believe it was Joe Lowry writing at MLSsoccer.com.net that he, his something like saved 6 more goals than expected, or something like that. In the season, he's played 16 of the Red Bulls' 19 games. He's given up 16 goals. He's a goal against average of just over 1. He has 7 clean sheets on the season, which is just a shade, which is in second place in the league. I don't think, short of giving up that goal at NYCFC, where he just kind of scuffed it and led to NYCFC's, I think it was their 2nd goal. There's nothing that he's done that we haven't needed him to do. I think he's been terrific. His form has changed games. He keeps New York in games that they're winning. He keeps New York from losing games that they're drawing. Against Orlando, superlative saves that a lesser goalkeeper would have conceded. That's my thought. Mike, you on Cornell?
If Dwayne St. Clair wasn't having a season to admire over in Minnesota, I feel like more people would be talking about Carlos Coronel. We're biased because we actually see him every week. We cover him. But at the end of the day, it seems like, I've spoken about how I'm mixed on him historically because it feels like at times he's one of the greatest goalkeepers in the history of this team. Other times he's just mediocre. And it feels like this year we've seen both of those, but we would see more of the one of the better keepers in this team's history. I remember when I was doing my All-Star ballot, I was looking at who I was going to put for goalkeeper, and I was looking at the clean sheets, and he's in 2nd. But what caught me was he's allowed 20 goals this season compared to which is more than most of the top 5 or 6, wherever it is, because tied players are the same thing. And that was kind of made me think for a few minutes. I was like, that's more on the defense than him. That first goal against NYCFC, that's just a really good shot. the goals against DC United. Like is what happens. His play has kept this team in countless games. I can't speak on like defense because we could talk about Raheem Edwards. We're going to talk about Raheem, all the defenders, but it feels like because of him, New York is where they are. They've been a mediocre team, and if things get better, he's going to be a reason why they're an excellent team.
Dan, thoughts on Cornell?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and simple because you guys touched on a lot of good points. I think, he's been great for this team. I think the only reason he's at an A- for me is that New York City game. Sure, like I would say that goal cost them a point, but even if he doesn't make that mistake, I still think they lose that game. It's just, what we saw in that game. But I'll just read off some stats. First in save percentage, tied for first in saves per 90. I mean, he's been he's done exactly what the team has asked or called for him to do. So A- for me is really good. I think if Matt Freese and Dwayne St. Clair weren't, I feel like the two best goalies in the league this year, I think Carlos Cornell would get a lot more, light on him for the All-Star game. But yeah, A- for me. Really good season from Carlos.
Awesome. Let's keep it going. Peter Strad is a player that I think has become a little bit of a listen. Every team has one of them. A little bit of a lightning rod. Whether the team is better, where Strad is paired with Edelman or Carvajo is paired with Edelman, the grades here, there's some spread here. He's played in every single match. He has 2 assists on the season. Dan, let's start with you. You gave him a C+. Why did you do that?
Yeah, so, this is one of my harsh grades that you'll see today. And it's nothing like to knock the player. Obviously, that's what we're doing, though. But it's just since he's come back from that dislocated ankle, broken ankle from last year, it's kind of his game has changed in a way that is less, flashy, less explosive on the field. Like I feel like when him and Edelman are on the field together, there's just not a lot coming from that midfield creativity wise, and it kind of shows in his assists right there. He's only got 2 on the season. I didn't even know he had 2, so that's news to me. But I think defensively he's been okay, and that's my biggest takeaway is that I feel like he's just lacking in that playmaking ability that I would want to see from someone next to Daniel Edelman, and that's why my grade is a C+. I think there's a lot more to give from a player like Peter Strad because I think we all know his ceiling. A player that was, NCAA Player of the Year at Duke his final year. I think offensively his game is there. It's just can it come out of him again? And I hope to see that in the second half of the season because I think he's going to be playing a lot. So that's my grade, C+. I like Peter Strad, but I think there's a lot more to give from him.
Mike, you gave him a B+.
I did. I gave the highest one here. It's funny because I do think that playing next to Edelman, it feels as though they both battle to have great games. Edelman has had more great games this year, but Strad, for his part, has been not just as good, but very good. I think that he isn't getting the assists because Red Bull hasn't been going through the middle. They kick off to the side, and then they kick back in. So they don't go through the middle. He doesn't get those assists. That doesn't necessarily mean he's not being a playmaker. He'll be, if we're going by hockey assists, I'm pretty sure he's the one who sets up Emil Forsberg, who then sets up the goal. That's still invaluable to this team. He's just been in the middle of the field. And I would say the last game against, I almost said Dallas, wrong red team.
Atlanta.
You saw that with him, just how good he was playing in that midfield, setting up plays multiple times. So I've really liked what I've seen from him. I've always been a fan of him. USL guy, Red Bull. Like, I'm glad Red Bull picked him up, and homegrown. So at the end of the day, I think that he's got that ceiling to continue to be great in this league. So I've been happy. I really have.
I gave him a B. I think that Red Bull fans are recalling back to last season before his injury, where he was an offensive force. Let's be clear.
Exactly
he was
my point.
playing some of the best soccer of his young career. And I think it was a long road back for him. And I think it's not happening in the same way. As you guys have both said, he's not being asked to do those things. That said, because of the roster at that time, he had to be the one playing out on the wing. And he doesn't have to do that now because New York has other players that can fill in there. So I give him a B. I think it's perfectly fine. And let's keep going. Gustavo agrees with me. Thanks, Gustavo. Okay, so Shawn Nis is played in 16 of the team's 19 games. He started 13 of them. He has a goal in the Open Cup, to be fair, on the road in Colorado Springs, and 2 assists. There's not much variation here. Mike, you want to start with what you've seen from Shawn? Because it felt like, I mean, there was a little bit of a stretch where he was being rested. He was never on the injury report, which leads me to believe that coach was just like, yeah, let's try some other combinations right now.
I mean, yeah, look how much roster rotation there already was. So, I mean, trying other things doesn't really hurt. Like, they had a Tim Parker, like Hawk. They had all this stuff to try. But, yeah, last year he was an A. He was an A center fielder. Or center back. With Andres Reyes. This year, he doesn't have that same consistency. So he's definitely taken a step back. But overall, like, I still think that he's still one of the better center backs in this league. He still has a consistent presence in front of net, in front of Coronel. Even if the team is letting in goals, it feels like it's not coming through him. It's either coming through his brother, who's injured right now, or it's coming through like other players. So I've been happy with the way he's been playing. There's been I don't think I can name a game this year that was lost because of Shawn Nis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I like it. Dan, thoughts? We're all kind of in the same place here on him.
Yeah. First, I want to give a quick update on the Red Bull 2 game. Marcelo Morales has scored a absolute golazo.
Let's go.
With his right foot.
Let's go.
From outside the box. So 1-0 baby Bulls. But yeah, back to Shawn Nis. I think, like Mike said, he's definitely taken a step back from what he was performing last year with Andres Reyes. And you brought up the rotation, Mark. I think that's just basically, guys are like the 3 center backs next to Noah Ayah that have been in rotation are, they're older guys. And I think it's just kind of keeping each one of those 3 guys as fresh as possible through a long season. And I think Shawn's been the best of all 3 of them. It's just that I don't know what to say. It's just like, sometimes he's getting beat a bit more this year, but he's recovering. But I think that's just the thing. I think his game has taken a bit of a step back, and that's why I'm giving him a B. But he's definitely been the second best center back on the roster this year.
Yeah, I think that's clear. I gave him a B. Gustavo gave him a B. In the interest of time, we're going to keep it moving. Daniel Edelman has been so important to this team. Dan, I gave him an A. I don't. He doesn't have a point on the season, which is totally fine with me.
Yep.
He's played in almost 1,100 minutes. Dan, you gave him an A. Why did you do that?
I think he is performing exactly what we want from him as the number 6, in the double pivot. The more defensively sound player in that partnership. He's doing everything. His passing has improved. His composure, his leadership has taken another step. Even in the penalty shootouts, his penalties have improved, and that's been a big thing as well. He's one of those guys that wants to step up, and that kind of shows his leadership as well. I don't think his season to this point has been perfect, so that's why it's an A. But I've loved what I've seen from Daniel Edelman, and he's been one of, if not one of the most important players on this roster this year.
Yep, no notes for me. Solid A. Mike likes it even more with an A+. Mike.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest here. It's half to do with fact and half to do with vibes. I know it sounds stupid, but to see how much he's gotten better and to see how much of this team relies on him on a team with Emil Forsberg is just a joy to see. You're right. He hasn't gotten a point on the season, but it does not matter. I think that when he's on the field, like he could be like the third most important person on the field behind Choupo, behind Coronel. And to say that's Edelman, the kid from Warren, is insane to me. And I can't. I probably should just give him an A. I was going to give him this A+ because like so good, and I just can't get over it. So honestly, everything Dan said, but I'm just gonna go the little extra mile and just be happy with how well he's doing.
I'm surprised you gave him an A+, even though he doesn't know how to say Carney.
Okay, all right. Let's move on here.
It's a long distance from Warren to Carrion. Gustavo gave him a B+. I don't know what he's smoking. Okay. Wiki Carmona has played almost 1,000 minutes. Now, I want to, before we share for our audio listeners where the grades came in on Wiki, I want to share some percentiles of where Wiki ranks on some key stats. Okay. Let's see. He's in the 93rd percentile in shots taken. He's in the 90th percentile in progressive carries. He's in the 93rd percentile in touches in the attacking penalty area. He's in the 82nd percentile in blocks. He's in the 26th percentile in passes completed percentage. And he's in the 9th percentile in passes attempted. He's been asked to play in a bunch of different places. He is not yet 23 years old, but I think the reason for the grades here, and both Mike and Dan gave him C minuses, Gustavo a C+, and I gave him a B, is because I don't know if there is a real place for him in the way that Carlos Coronel wants to play.
Sandro
Schwartz. Sandro Schwartz, excuse me. And Mike, I'm going to go to you first on why a C- for Wickelman.
It's not even my lowest grade, by the way.
Okay,
So
that's all right.
We're gonna get to that.
All right.
He's just been abysmal. He's just
Wow.
The only thing that's kind of saved him was the Open Cup assists and like a couple other things, but like there are times where he just doesn't move in the middle of the field. Like you'll watch a play develop, and there are people running. You'll have you'll have Noah Ella running from the back, and Wiki Carmona is just standing there menacingly, and I can't handle it because you're right. He's been moved around a bunch because of injury, and we've been trying to Tom Edwards this man into so many different places, and it's probably shattering his confidence.
Yeah.
But if I'm just like looking at this objectively, like I can't keep giving you passes because we're running out of feet. Like you need to just be at least a consistent something. And it feels like he can't find himself. This is what the reserve team is for. And like he needs to go back to Montclair or something to find himself if we're keeping him around. Because I can't the way that Red Bull uses him is just a USL style player. If I have to borrow a term from the internet.
I think it's a more positive way to put a spin on what Mike said is he hasn't continued to level up as he has stayed with the team. It felt like when he got here, he was 17. He got thrown on the field, 18, 19, and he was doing some cool things. And people were like, wow, this kid could really be something. And I feel like his growth has stalled. And part of it is because of the system under Schwartz, and part of it is because he himself isn't making it happen. Dan, your thoughts on Carmona?
And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that is my biggest gripe with him is, Mike brings up when he should go back down to Red Bull 2. he's a different player when he goes back down to Red Bull too. He scores. He's like a really good playmaker. There's certain aspects of his game where you're like, that should still improve. But it's just his transition from Red Bull 2 and his game there to bringing that to the senior team. It just doesn't work for whatever reason in his head. And maybe that's his positioning, because I think his ceiling is a really good playmaking 10 with a strong left foot. But he's playing on the wing and all that. And from what I've seen with the first team, it kind of echoes what Mike was saying, is that you bring up some good stats, Mark, but this is where the eye test works for me. It's like he doesn't look like an MLS player some days on the pitch. So analytically, that's probably why he's starting for Red Bull, because I think Red Bull is a really good analytically driven team, and those are really good stats for a player in his position. But when you're comparing, what you would want, particularly out of the position him at right wing, he just doesn't do it for me. And again, I don't think he fits the system, and that's probably a roster construction problem more than that's why I was confused when he got a contract extension. I was just like, he doesn't fit the team, but you gave him another contract. So
he's also 22, and yes, you can say we should all be fully formed athletes by that point, but we know that development is not a straight line up and to the right.
I just want to make one more point. I think if they fully committed to making him a center mid in the double pivot, with how he kind of plays this year, but you put that in the double pivot next to Daniel Edelman, I don't know if it would work, but I feel like it would much better suit his game than playing on the wing with what he's doing. So I just don't think he's a winger for the system, for this team right now. So that's why my grade is very bad. I've seen really good Wiki Carmona in my life at Red Bull too. I've seen what his potential is. It's just he can't, for whatever reason, bring that game to the first team.
He's played in every match this season in both competitions. All right. From someone that has, I think, underperformed comes someone that has very much overperformed, and that is Omar Valencia, who sadly, some might say tragically, got completely destroyed physically by Atlanta on a horrific tackle that surely looked like his shoulder was either broken or dislocated. I don't think we have word yet on how long this injury is going to be.
I thought it was his wrist.
Oh, was it his wrist? It's very, very, that's fine.
Wrist.
That's fine. Nevertheless, 5 assists in 872 minutes. He is tied with Emil Forsberg for the team lead in assists in all competitions. I gave him an A. Mike gave him an A. Dan gave him an A-. We'll hear why right now. Gustavo an A+ for the Latino player from Panama. Daniel, you've just shared your thoughts on Wiki. Let's hear what you have to say about Omar Valencia.
I want to preface this as I am the biggest Omar Valencia fan. Since seeing him at Red Bull 2. I've been saying he's a MLS left back for over 12 months now. He should have gotten a look last year to kind of prepare him for this year. And I just want to say he's been amazing for Red Bull this year. My only critique of him is sometimes he gets caught defensively. He can get bumped off the ball sometimes. But offensively, going forward, outstanding. His connection with the midfield, linking play there, amazing. His pace is amazing. My only thing is I think he can improve still defensively, and he gets caught sometimes, maybe ball watching. But I think he's been a really impressive player this year, and I think he's caught a lot of people by surprise, but he's not caught me by surprise.
He sure caught me by surprise. He also has 5 yellow cards on the year, and he's been suspended.
He would have been, by the way, at the Gold Cup if he didn't get injured.
That's right.
That's very unfortunate because
very unfortunate.
I feel like he would have started as well at left back. So,
Mike, Omar Valencia.
I won't take too much of your time. I'll just say that I had no idea like what to expect this season. He has been really good. I would say that he creates a lot of chances for this team. He does get caught out a couple times, but overall it feels like Dan hit the nail on the head. He seems like he was born to play in MLS. So I won't keep going. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd like to add that in the game against Atlanta, John Tolkien Kyle Duncan tied John Tolkien's mark with 17 assists all time, the most assists ever by a defender. And in 800 minutes, Omar Valencia is a third of the way there. And when Valencia isn't on the field and someone else is, and we'll talk about that as we go.
Yeah.
Omar Valencia is making people forget that John Tolkien was here. I don't think it's a massive stretch. I think there's a comfort level with Valencia that as he continues to mature will be, I think, really, really valuable for New York. An A for me. Gustavo gives him an A+, as I said. All right, let's keep it rolling. Alexander Hack has played in 12 games. He started 9, 2 assists on the season. He came into the league this year for the first time. He obviously knows the big stars, the big DPs from time in Germany. He's 31 years old and not speedy. He has a really good football brain, though. Really, really good. I gave him a B-. Mike a B-, Dan a C+, Gustavo a B. Mike, your B- and why?
Just because I feel as though when he's playing alongside another certain defender, maybe even 2 certain defenders, it feels like his game gets dragged down. And I feel like a defender of his quality shouldn't be dragged down. He should be pulling up. It feels like he's only as good as the players around him. And he gets caught out a lot. That being said, when he works, he works.
Yeah.
So I can go like B- just because he is, doing well. It just, unfortunately, it feels like sometimes the defenders around him aren't. And it feels like you'll see as time goes on, my defender grades are either really good or really bad. And that just kind of affects him in that sense too.
That's cool. Dan, C+.
Yeah, I just, I felt like he would have been a really good addition for this team. But I just feel like with his lack of, movement, his pace, I think that's kind of held him back from being a consistent starter next to Noah Ayah because, technically, if you put those two together in like your center back core with the passing, their range of passing and dribbling that they have together, that's a picture perfect, partnership. It's just that, sometimes when you're playing in a, forward to back and you have Omar Valencia going up the field, there's not a lot of cover for Alexander Hack. And you can see that was my big concern for him in preseason is, his pace. He'll get beat. And he's been getting beat a handful of times this year. And I think that's kind of held him out from starting more games and kind of getting those consistent minutes next to Noah Ayah. But I've liked what I've seen from him with his passing. His aerial defense is really good in the box. His leadership, I think, is very underrated. I think he's been a calm presence for that center back room. Despite being new, I think he's one of the leaders in that room. He's soft-spoken with the media. I think he's been a good add for the quality of the overall team. I just feel like if he was just a bit faster, his performances would have been very, much better for my grade. But
he's a guy. Thank you, Dan. He's a guy that scored a number of goals on corners and restarts during preseason. We haven't seen any of that so far. I'm going to ask politely, as we still have 13 players to go. Let's keep our thoughts here just to a couple of sentences. Our insight is overflowing, and our listeners and viewers are definitely the better for it. But let's see what we can do. Felipe Carvajo may or may not be a Red Bull past June 30th. He's been dealing with injuries, have a couple of assists, haven't seen the kind of goals that he delivered during the playoffs. We all gave him Bs except for Dan, who gave him a C+. Why not, sir?
I just feel like he's been very inconsistent. We all know his potential when he's on the field. That's the first thing. He's not on the field as consistently as we all would want. When he's on the field, for the most part, really good. But I think him being injury prone, and I don't know what else to say other than that. I want to say other things, but I don't know how to put them in the words. But I think him not being on the field is what's holding him back for me. So C+ for me.
An interpretive dance. Mike, you have two nice sentences on Felipe Carvajo.
Probably should have given him a C+, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Not playing like a player who is trying to get a contract or a loan extension. It feels as though he isn't justifying sticking around with his play on the field. We know what he's capable of, but not seeing it, I feel like my B is just resonant of last year.
Okay, fair enough. Raheem Edwards, ladies and gentlemen, was signed to the team right before the season, I think when it became evident that Marcelo Morales was not going to be ready to go. Edwards is a veteran in this league. He's played for a number of teams. His stops usually aren't terribly long. He has 2 assists. I was the kindest here, a B- C+ by far. Mike, a couple of sentences on why.
I'm giving you more than a couple sentences. I can't take this, man.
I'll give him my time.
I can't take this because at the end of the day, he has shown multiple times that he is an MLS journeyman. He can never be a consistent player on any team, and the Red Bulls brought him in, and he's doing exactly what we should have expected. The problem is with him is that end of the day, he was good as a sub, and when he starts, I am petrified. He gets beaten on the wings every time. He gets a couple of assists. It doesn't matter of fact what he does. He looks old, he looks tired, and the players around him know it. And I don't think he should be on this team next year. I don't care if it's a 2-year contract. You got to do something with him. He should be another time where he's on a team for 1 year.
The question is, with a healthy Valencia and a healthy Morales, I don't necessarily think there's a spot for Raheem Edwards on this team. Dan, anything to add?
Yeah, I just think, he's not a left back at this point in his career. I think he's more of a left, he's more of a left mid, left winger. It's just his lack of pace, and even when he gets beat, I feel like, I don't know if it's him, he's doing it on purpose, but I see him jog back, and that kind of irks me as a left back. And his defensive drive for me isn't there all the time, so that's what's kind of putting me at a D. I just don't think he's a left back, especially in this team. I didn't think he was going to be a really good fit stylistically in the Red Bull system, and it's kind of proven me and Mike right so far.
I think he's just an emergency player, and as you said, he's been thrown on. It's always an adventure. He gives the ball away. He passes to the wrong team. That said, when he came in Atlanta for the second half of the game, he was lights out defending, but it's that lack of consistency that is maddening for fans. I've said what I've said. Kyle Duncan has 1 assist. We just saw it. He's only played 700 minutes, coming back from a very, very long injury. I gave him a B-, Dan a B+, Mike a B, Gustavo a B. Mike, you want to talk briefly about Kyle Duncan?
Briefly is that he's doing better than he did last year. Actually playing somewhat like the Red Bull player we know he can play as. On a defensive line that's either good or bad, he's pretty good. So I'm happy with what I've seen from him.
Dan?
I've loved what I've seen from him since coming back from injury. He looked so far. I need to see more of it, so we'll see the second, full season grades, but he's starting to look a bit like pre-transfer to Kyle Duncan before he left. So I wanted to give him more time to breathe, but I've really liked what I've seen so far. And thankfully he came back at the right time, because, Dylan Nealis went down, and at right back they were kind of struggling for who to put there. They were putting Cam Harper, Gengar back there. So he came back at the perfect time, and he's kind of solidified that position for himself.
The singular reason that I give him a B- and not a B, at Citi Field with the Red Bulls trailing in the game, a ball fell to him 30 yards from goal, and he lined it up with easily 7 or 8 players between him and the goal and launched it in the field. And while I definitely appreciate the optimism of a player trying to make have a go, oh my goodness, there was not one instance in a million that ball was going to reach the goal. And at a time where the Red Bulls were losing, I would have much rather he simply just held it. But other than that, I agree with everything you said. Okay, Cam Harper has gotten some very good grades here. There's a smattering of grades. 3 goals and 2 assists. He's been injured a bunch. He's only started 7 games. I give him a B+, Mike an A-, Dan a B-, Gustavo an A+. Dan, let's go to you first. A B- for Cam Harper? What?
Yeah, just he's like an enigma for me because with the past couple of games, he's looked really good, and the Cam Harper that we think should be in the starting lineup every single week. But there's always these times where he'll start and do nothing, and it's just a consistency thing for me. Obviously he deals with injuries as well, so he has that knock on him as well. I didn't really hurt him for that. That's not in my grade because he didn't really miss that much time. Like he missed a couple of games, but didn't miss too much time. But it's just, when he's on the field, sometimes you're like, man, I wish you did more. Man, you should have made that pass or something else. I just think if he locks down that consistency better, like he'd be an instant starter for this team across from other players on the field. It's just that sometimes he leaves the field and you want more from him.
For me, he is an instant starter. Mike, A-?
A- instant starter for me. Definitely has. He's not hitting he didn't start the year hitting the same highs as he was last season. Like he is inconsistent, but I feel as though when he's on, he is on. He has found himself. He's kind of, even though he can't go on the wing because we don't have wingers anymore, because we think that's a foreign concept, he's still finding the ability to get assists. He does get assists. He does get goals. If he can set up plays, I'm pretty happy with what I've seen from him. I think that he's proving a lot of people wrong, and I want him to continue to do more.
For me, he tends to dribble into a closet down the wing. He'll get the ball. He'll either not take on the man, or he doesn't believe in his own speed. He's a very gifted technical player.
Yep.
Sometimes he puts his head down and just dribbles to the end line and nothing comes of it. And sure, I mean, you're trying different things, but all in all, I love Cam. I think he's great. I think he's great for the team. I want to see him succeed, which brings us to, I think, another one of the massive surprises of this Red Bull season, and that's Mohamed Sofo and his 7 goals. Dan is begging to talk about Mohamed Sofo, who gave him an A+ along with Gustavo. Mike and I gave him an A-. Dan, it's your show. Go for it.
Yes. Again, this is another guy. If you came to MSU Soccer Park, you would know that he was bound for a breakout. And Mohamed Sofo is the only A+ I gave to anybody.
Ooh.
This midterm grades, and an A+, you got to earn it. There's only one person that could get the perfect score, and
grades on a curve.
Mohamed Sofo has been excellent. He has been, I want to say, like the best overall player for Red Bull this midterm, other than his injury. Which, imagine if he didn't get injured. Like he could have double-digit goals right now. And he's also another reason why I don't think Cameron Harper is, a pendant starter. Because when Lewis Morgan comes back, you're not dropping Mohamed Sofo. You're going to drop Cameron Harper to the bench. And he'll be the first guy off the bench, Cameron Harper. But I think Mohamed Sofo, with his game, his pressing, his goal-scoring ability, his pace, he's everything you wanted out of a winger. And he's kind of everything you probably expected out of Wiki Carmona. But for me, Mohamed Sofo has been A plus player. He's solidified in the starting lineup, and if he was a bigger name, I mean, he'd probably be at
newcomer of the year.
No, he'd be all-star. I think he's gonna win newcomer of the year.
Wow, that's the bold statement, my friend.
That is a bold statement. So,
Mike, you got a comment on Sofo?
I got no comment on Sofo. He's just that great. I don't want to keep us going too long, and I think that Dan's saying everything that I want to say. He's been the breakout player on this team. Brace to the Open Cup, so I like him.
Yes.
But actually, Golden Boot tied for the Open Cup right now. Let's go. Overall, I say the biggest thing I've seen from him is just on a team that we've said that doesn't have anyone in the final third. He's not clinical, but he's threatening in a way that this team needs.
Hey, that flick on tells me otherwise.
That flick was pretty spectacular.
The flick on was great.
By the way, I thought that was an own goal from our view up there in the second deck. Great flick. Oh my god.
Awesome. Dennis Yengar has 3 goals on the season, 1 in the Open Cup, 1 or 2, I'm not sure. These grades are all over the place. Mike gave him an A, Dan gave him a C+, a B- from me, an A+ from Gustavo. 3 goals in 600 plus minutes. He's only started 7 games. Mike, why did you give him an A?
I just like the way he's playing. I think the way I'm seeing these grades make me scared to talk. It's honestly just because I feel like he's kind of like Ayah in a sense, where it's not just because they're both Norwegian. It's from the scans. It's not because they're just from over there. It's because I think that he's just stupidly consistent. I feel like he's going to play his role, and he's going to play the Red Bull way, whether you like it or not. And that's either going to work out or it's not. And I think that I'm not going to fault him for playing in a system that isn't working when he's doing the job well. When you're seeing him play, you're seeing him move the ball around. You're seeing him just shove people around. We're not a physical team at times. We usually concede possession, but he gets physical. And I think that it works.
I don't know if I see that.
Yeah,
I see Yengar hold up his runs consistently at a time when Cam Harper will take the ball to the line, try a move, a step over, whatever, pull back, try to cross it. Yengar's passes for me are more often backwards and sideways. And this team has been certainly guilty during this very busy month of May, and maybe they're just kind of pooped. We all know that there have been games where the ball is just endlessly cycled from corner to corner with sideways and backwards passes, and I just don't see the confidence from Yengar to say, out of the way, that's my opportunity, that's my ball. He has provided some nice passes. I don't know, Dan, quickly on Dennis, where are you?
Yeah, I had a couple of things. He had his opportunity to take that spot opposite Mohamed Sofo when Cameron Harper was down, and he obviously didn't take that. I think his traits and skill, his ceiling is there to be had from a player like him with the pace that he has, the ability that he has. It's just, it hasn't been clicking for him. And my grade is also that he's occupying a U22 spot. And for him to, be this type of, I want to say he's just been average for me. Like, okay. I like him as a player. I like his game, but for this year, he's just been average. And when you're occupying a U22 spot in your second full season, by the way,
Yeah.
If this was last year, I would probably give him a better grade, but I think he needs to do more. So that's why he hasn't been in the lineup. He just needs to do more.
Fair enough. Victor Bogas got his first goal, a phenomenal goal, last week. High degree of difficulty goal. Surprised the hell out of everybody. Definitely in the game against Charlotte, the forwards scored all the goals. What? He's played less than 300 minutes, however, and that's why I gave him an incomplete. And you're going to see incompletes from me down the line with these players that just haven't played a whole lot this season. Both of these clowns gave him a C+.
Whoa.
Dan, you want to say why he's a C+? He just got here. Christ.
Yeah, I wanted to give an incomplete, but I think I only gave one incomplete, and that's Lewis Morgan. So I tried to give out fair grades to this point in the season. Before the last couple of games, I've wanted to see a lot more from Bogas, because what I've seen from him is he's got the speed, he's got the
size,
physique. He's got the aerial ability, he's got that finishing ability. I just hadn't seen it on the pitch, and that could also be a fact that his teammates around him haven't gotten him the ball inside the box.
Yep.
So I think that last game showed that he can be a player for this team when he scored that goal when he started against Charlotte. I love that game from him personally, so that's why I'm up to a C+. But again, this is just midterm grades. His grade's only going to go up for me if he plays like that the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the goal gives him a tremendous amount of confidence. Mike, anything to add?
This kid left us on red, and this is what we're getting. I mean, that's where I'm spiteful, man.
He came in hurt. He's not not allowed to.
He did have a back injury.
He came in hurt, and he's never played in the first division of any league in his life before this.
Why are we so crazy about getting him?
That's not his fault.
His potential, man.
But
he's not against Charlotte.
Fault, but it puts me at a point where I want to see a lot from him, and I haven't yet.
Okay, he's played 300 minutes. All right, let's keep going. Serge Goma has one goal in 268
Oh, no.
minutes. Incompletes all over the board except for Mike, who gave him a C. Mike, why do you hate Serge Goma?
There ain't no curve in this house. I give enough curves already. I'll say, look, I'm getting to the point where I just think he's too injury prone. I like him. I think he's got talent, but my grade's going to go down for him because it feels like I see him on the injury list so much that I've got to start actually taking it against him.
Okay. It's fair enough. We hope for better from Serge. That's fair. Let's keep going. Dylan Nealis has also been on the injury list quite a bit. I don't know how this snuck down here. 600 minutes. Nevertheless, Dylan has been out for quite a bit. B's and B pluses across the board. For Dylan, I think he played super well at the end of last season. I want to speak for the three of us and just say these grades are absolutely fine and would be better if he was healthy and playing. Is that fair?
Very fair.
Let's keep going.
I think his games that he was playing, he earned himself a B.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Oh
my God, Mike.
Tim Parker.
You're a hater.
Has played 400 minutes. He both Gustavo and I gave him incompletes. Dan gave him a C+. Mike gave him a D.
How?
I'm sure for getting skinned alive against Pagula in DC when he was literally left as a traffic cone in the middle of what is New York's only home loss of the season.
Yep.
Dan, thoughts on Tim Parker?
For his role on this team, he gets a C+. He's been average, and that's where I'll leave it at. I think he's that come on late in a game type center back for this team. So if you want to start him, that's your own fault.
He's the fourth center back. That's what he is at this stage of his career. Mike,
that is correct.
You gave him a D.
He looks like a dude who's been in this league for 10 plus years. I mean,
and he has.
He got brought in. People were all happy because, he's coming home. He looks like he shouldn't have come home. I've hated every moment he's been on the field. So I really can't
Hater.
say
Oh my
anything nice.
God.
I'm not wrong.
Hater.
I'm telling Tim on you.
All right. Now let's turn to AJ Marcucci, who's played in 3 games, 1 in the league and 2 in the cup.
Look at
He
Mike.
won
again.
a penalty kick shootout. And there are A's all around, except for Mike, who gave him an A-. And
That's
why
still
did you
an
do
A.
that? Why did you do that?
I don't know. Go to him. Go to him first. I'm trying to think what my thing was.
I mean, I'll just say, I mean, he's done everything that's asked. This is the goal for the future for New York.
Oh, I remember. Every game he hasn't gotten a clean sheet yet. I think that the Colorado game. He shut up. All the I just feel like he's let in too many sloppy goals. But overall, I've just been really happy with him.
Okay.
No, I gotta step up for AJ. One of the goals he gave up against Dallas, Mike was like, "Yo, he should have saved that." It's the first one that got blasted in 100 miles per hour by him.
Yeah.
So I've liked really what I've seen from AJ. Again, it's just another guy that performed at Red Bull too. If you were
Wait a minute, no, I gave him an A.
Did you? Did I enter this wrong?
I'm looking at my thing. I gave him an A. Dan gave him an
just-
A-, and you gave an A-. I'm looking at the sheet.
No, you changed those.
This is forgery.
But yeah, so I've for the 3 games that he's played, he's done exactly what he's needed to do. He's performed in that penalty shootout, like you said. I think he took his form from Finland and brought it here. So I like where this position is at going forward after this year.
Then why'd you give him an A-?
Nah, no proof.
I hate you.
My apologies. When you're doing 24 of these, sometimes. Ronald Donkor put out an APB on Ronald Donkor. He's played 224 minutes. Both Gustavo and I gave him an incomplete. Mike,
I found him. He's in North Carolina right now.
Okay, thank you. Gave him a C. Mike gave him a C. Dan gave him a C-. Anyone to throw in on Ronald Donkor?
No.
I'll go. I've just been disappointed with his level of play with the first team this year. I think he knows it himself that he has a much higher level than what he performed. And I think, what we all look at that game where he got subbed out before halftime.
Yeah.
I think he knows that, and I think he's still working towards it. I mean, he's 20 years old. He just turned 20 years old this year. He's still got a lot more growth in his game. So
yeah,
I'm still very high on Ronald Donkor. It's just his first half of the season has not been the best.
It's really incredible just how many players on this team are between 20 and 23 years old. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
The vast majority of the Red Bull players are in these is in development mode, and as Coach Schwartz said, that is how we do it to you, right? So, Julian Hall has barely played. He played the first half at Atlanta. It was his only start of the year. He's had a lot of mop-up duty. He hasn't reached 300 minutes. I gave him an incomplete. Mike on the fence of B's and C's. Dan a C-, Gustavo a C. Mike, you want to talk about Julian Hall? I don't think there's room here for him right now. And he's playing for the 2 team right now.
There's not room for him right now. He only gets on when this team is injured, which is funny because the team's always injured. I'll say I just like when he comes in the field, I think that he has the ability to threaten, which is more than I could say last year when it was just like, oh, he's a child. This year, I feel like there has been that growth and confidence. And I've been happy to see that from him. He has been threatening. I just need him to have that breakout moment. So I just don't know if it's going to be on the New York Red Bulls. It could be with another team. It could be with the Montreal Impact, probably now.
And he's going to the U17 national team.
That is correct.
Oh,
I just want to add. I'll be critical. I've actually been rarely disappointed with Julian's game this year because I know what his potential is. He knows what his potential is. If he was playing better, he would be on the field. Sometimes, to me, from up top, it looks like his game could be a bit lazy in the pressing. And that might just be too critical for me. But I've seen him be a star with Red Bull 2, with the youth teams. So I think there is a much higher level that he can bring on a game-to-game basis. Even when he's being brought on after the 80th minute, I think he could show a lot more in that time. So that's why I gave him a C-. I think he has a lot more room to grow this year. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that midterm grade goes up into the B's and A's at the end of the season.
If Choupo-Moting is locked down for one spot and healthy, and let's hope he stays that way, and Mohamed Sofo is doing great work, and Lewis Morgan, who we're going to talk about in 1 second, is healthy and playing, it really is a 10-minute mop role. That's all that's going to be available for Hall. I mean, it's just, he's just too far down the line. An interesting comment from you, Mike, that maybe he's going to have to move to get playing time. And lastly, Lewis Morgan played
an incomplete,
played one game and got injured. And by all accounts, he will be returning after this break on the 14th when the Red Bulls play in Atlanta. I fully expect him to be on the roster. He may not start in that game, but he will be active. Mike, talk to me what the check mark is for, please.
Yeah.
The check mark is yeah, I do. The check mark is because I'm sort of getting checked out by the fact that everyone keeps saying that he's like, it's gonna be fine once Lewis Morgan returns.
Mm-hmm.
They're making him into this messiah character on this team, and he's not that. I just kind of was like, okay, yeah, Morgan, check. We'll see what happens with him. Like, it's not even incomplete for me. He's gonna fail because everyone's setting up these expectations for him, and he's not gonna hit them. And I'm not saying that because he can't. I'm just saying because people have set it way too high. It's kind of bothering me to this point.
I kind of agree with Mike.
People shouldn't say. Yeah, go Dan.
Okay, I just wanted to say I agree with Mike. But I'll say this: since he's been injured, they have switched to that 4-2-3-1, and I think that will suit his game a lot more than it has. And he was scoring goals as a striker, but he just wasn't a striker. So I think him being on the wing more will suit his game more. But again, I think a lot of people are setting the expectations high, and for a guy that's been injured constantly like him, you know, it could be, you know, not getting up to those expectations that people are setting out for him.
For me, what he'll bring is attention. He'll bring attention down the left side of the field, and that will open up space for Choupo-Moting and for Forsberg, the kind of which that a player like Sofo should be getting right now, but maybe isn't getting yet, perhaps because the rest of the league isn't so sure of what they're seeing there. So it'll be a joy to have Lewis back and playing, regardless of what the expectation is of him and regardless of what he's able to do for New York in the second half.
Yep.
I just want to mention before we go, and thank you for sitting with us through 72 minutes of review. Better take a nap, but nevertheless, he's had a big day. This Red Bulls team, in terms of points per game, is 9th out of 30 teams all time. And yes, it's just the first half, but this team put together a really nice run. It's hard to win 3 games in a row in this league, even if 2 of those games are at home and even if they're teams that are below you on the table. For the last 4 years, we've been concerned about this team playing down to the level of their opponents. In the second half, there are going to be some challenging matches, right? They're going to have Cincinnati again. They're going to be at where the hell they're going to be? They're going to be playing Columbus again. They're going to be tangling with a lot of top teams in the second half, and they'll have the Open Cup. They've got 2 games at Philly in 4 days, and the Leagues Cup. So it's going to be busy. But nevertheless, it was an absolute joy with you gentlemen talking about the Red Bulls and how they did in the first half of the season. It's beyond reason that this season is half over. Dan, where can folks find you?
You can find me at Area Sports Network. I'll just say May was a crazy time for all of us for Red Bull Media. 9 games. I mean, Jesus. So thank God that's past us, and I'm ready for the second half of the season.
Mike?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Michael Battista. You can find me on Twitter at Michael Battista. You can find my writing on New York Sports Nation, Touch River Blue, U.S. Soccer, and thecup.us.
Awesome. I'm Mark Fishkin saying thank you so much for listening to this mid-season grade megasode of Seeing Red. And we're going to take a week off, and we'll be back to preview the Red Bulls at Austin. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.